Temp check. What kind of summer are we having this year? A family road trip summer? A beach bum summer? Or a wake me up when the sun sets summer? With Instacart, choose your own adventure and skip the shopping side quests. Where available, you can get ice cream delivered to your hotel, sunscreen to the pool, or cold brew to your bed. Well, door, in as fast as 30 minutes. Wherever you find yourself this summer, you can get the goods. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
When you want to have fun and have scratchers to scratch, there's a playful way you can do just that. Scratch with the key or acrylic nail. Scratch with the quill from a porcupine tail. Use a belt buckle from your friend Lamar. Or scratch with your pick while you play guitar. You can scratch in a bunch of different playful ways. Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
Each episode, our special guest will bring with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our special guest is Greg Mucci. He is a columnist for Daily Grindhouse and Talk Film Society, and you can also find his work at sites like Nightmarish Conjuring and Nightmare on Film Street. Welcome to the show, Greg!
Yay! What's up?
Yay!
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. I'm so glad that you're able to come on to talk this movie with us.
No, it's an honor to be asked by you guys.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like we interact all the time, and we've kind of followed each other from when I first started Twitter, and it's always nice to be able to like put a voice to the name and get to know people more that we interact with on a regular and recurring basis.
Yeah.
I mean, you were probably one of the first people who was genuinely, I think, nice to me on Twitter. And not to say like people are actively mean, but you had that. I got Demons and Demons 2 from you. And I was just like, I don't know, like the sweetest thing. And then I think from there on, just kind of shared a mutual passion for it. And it's just been really cool to see your site kind of flourish.
Oh, please. Thank you.
No, I'm somebody who super struggles to, focus and get stuff out there. But man, you just like bend over backwards to like write, and it shows. It's great.
Well, thank you.
Terry's the best.
No. Let's turn this attention on to you, Greg.
Oh, no.
We're interviewing you, Terry.
Right. No.
Tables have turned.
Podcast over. I'm done. No, I am like, it's really warm over here now. So Greg, how did you get into horror?
It started, I think, like for most people, with my family. My dad wasn't like ride or die horror. He was a chef, and so he worked with I think a lot of young cooks. Cool. And so, he would bring back like blank VHS tapes, which is always adds to the creepiness of it all.
Oh yeah. I remember those blank VHS tapes.
Oh yeah. I remember, non-horror related, he once brought home like an orange cassette of Johnny Mnemonic. And I enjoy that movie. It's, it's crap, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But yeah, he brought home, like, the Universal Monster movies is probably where we kickstarted it, where he brought home Wolfman, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it kind of just blossomed from there. But my dad was definitely like a child of like the nuclear age, where like Attack of the Puppet People and Forbidden Planet, This Island Earth were like his jam, I guess. And I really, I definitely appreciate those era of sci-fi horror, but it never really became my thing. And then one day he brought home A Nightmare on Elm Street, probably around the same time, 7 or 8 years old, and it's scared the hell out of me. And it was just like, I had no idea what it was. It was sort of this elusive tape. And yeah, he kind of did that. And I'm pretty sure he just got them from, people he worked with, these like young kids who were probably a lot more diehard horror fans. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then from there, not too far off from that, became 1996 and Scream blew up, and it was literally all over TV. And I watched it when it came out on VHS because I really wanted to go see it in theaters. And I remember my dad gave me The Ultimatum, and I forget what movie I chose instead. It may have been Austin Powers. Not sure if that came out in 96, but I chose something that wasn't Scream, and it was, a regret. Because that movie, I would love to have seen the theater experience of that. I mean, I've seen it in retrospects, and it's always been, it plays like gangbusters, especially. I saw it, I think, 2 years ago on Halloween weekend at a marathon, and it was Scream 1 and 2, and it was this...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, watching Scream 2 in an actual theater with a bunch of diehard horror fans is like, I don't know, it's like, I don't want to be like, blown out of proportion, but it's transcendental.
Yeah, I can imagine. I love Scream 2. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was actually just talking to my girlfriend Katie about how I feel like when people talk about it, they don't actually pinpoint Jada Pinkett Smith's like role. I mean, like her death is, I think, talked about often, but I think she just really, I don't know, nails that character for the brief, 10 minutes that she's in it. But I don't know. It's easily one of my like probably top 10 opening of a horror film.
Yeah, it's a great one, especially with the way she dies and all the people are just like watching, shoving like knives at her, and like it's gruesome and funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tragic. I was talking to somebody on Twitter. His name's Chris. I don't know his handle. Sorry, man. And he was saying how it's, super tragic if she died thinking her boyfriend killed her. And,
oh, yeah.
And it adds to it. I never read it that way. I kind of viewed it as like she sees the blood on his jacket and realizes that, someone's impersonating him. It can be read either way. And either way, it's still deeply tragic. I mean, and just the way she pelts out that scream on stage is like, that's like a death rattle. And it really...
Right, the one that finally gets everyone's attention. That maybe something else is going on.
Yeah, and I think like that, I don't know, to me that instance of people sort of running around the theater and like throwing things, it's like, that's the thing we love about the communal experience, is that like we get wrapped up in it. And I mean, I don't know, we're talking about like the theater experience in this age where it's, could be make or break, I guess. Because, I watched Invisible Man when it came out, I think, Friday? And I do love the idea of watching a movie on... that's in theaters in my, living room, the comforts of it. But I am kind of worried that this whole thing will change how we, view new movies.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, watching The Invisible Man in theaters was one of like the best theater going experiences I've had in a really long time since I saw Hereditary.
I can imagine.
Like the theater was packed, which was awesome. And everyone was like gasping and jumping, and it just it made it all the more intense because everyone was like all in for the movie. And I love that movie, and I think it still works like to watch it at home. But like you said, I think this is going to change the movie going experience and like really have people reconsider like movie theaters. And I think there is a place for movie theaters, though. I hope this doesn't affect them like horrifically, because I do still think like going to like nothing can beat the experience of going to a movie theater. I think. Yeah, I miss it a lot. Like it's weird. The other day I was like, I miss going to the movies. Like I miss that. Yeah. I miss like going to the movie theater and getting my ticket and like getting popcorn and sitting down and having a way to watch a film without distraction.
Oh,
it's really hard to watch it's really hard to watch a movie at home just without looking at your phone. And like I'm guilty of this. But like, it's so nice to have the theater like a distractionless way to watch, and I hope that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's a very fatalistic way of thinking, but
no, I mean, part of it's like the realist, I think, is that I think in my opinion, I think it'll hit theaters, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later it will hit VOD, or like you'll be able to pay $20, because I mean, if I went to the theater now, I'd probably spend about $26 if I was paying for my partner's ticket. And here we spent $20, and sure, it saved us money, but that moment in Invisible Man, like the restaurant scene, like it was such a
I know,
it was such an oh shit, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but it was like such an oh shit moment for both of
Gasps.
us. Yeah, where I was like, oh man, like what would that be like in a theater? You know, like just being on the same wavelength with people, because I mean, so often we're like, oh man, like that person's on their phone or that couple's talking. And it's like, yeah, it could divide you, but when that has that moment, it's like sparks fly. It's like you can't recreate that anywhere else.
There's nothing like seeing a good horror movie with a crowd of good people. There just isn't. The electricity that flows through the theater is irreplaceable, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, I think I've definitely felt that. I mean, I'm not sure, you know, like, what was the last movie that you felt that besides Invisible Man?
For me, I think it was Hereditary.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, Hereditary was like an absolutely nuts experience. Like, could hear a pin drop until like certain moments, like the pole scene. Everyone like the gasps that everyone let out, because I don't think anyone. I mean, like it was like that was a huge moment in horror. I feel like in like recent, like that was a huge fucking scene, and so watching it in that theater, and then the scene where he sits up in his bed and you can see her in the corner as like your eyes adjust to the dark. Everyone.
That was such an awesome scene.
Fuck?
Because you would hear gasps around the theater at different times as people started to like realize, because like people that saw it right away, they'd start gasping, and you're like, why are they gasping? And then all of a sudden around the whole theater, you'd start to hear it. People like shuffling uncomfortably and going, oh God, oh God, oh God. It was great.
Yeah. It's like everyone started to sort of, you know, take the step to acknowledging her in that corner, and you're just like, like
that's the moment I live for. That's one of the best moments in horror. Another one that really had a great movie going experience for me was Quiet Place. Like you could hear a pin drop in that theater, and everyone was just on board with the tension the entire way through, and it's a good experience.
Yeah. I love it when the whole theater is on board with the tension. Like, it's like an unspoken bond between everyone in the theater that it's like, we're all going to shut the fuck up and we're all going to like enjoy this crazy ass 2 hours.
Yeah. That movie I was super hesitant to go see in theaters with a packed crowd. So I waited till it hit like a sort of dollar theater that we have in Providence. I mean, it's closed down now because a couple of months ago they couldn't pay rent, and it sucks. Like all of a sudden,
that's lame.
Yeah, all of a sudden they just stopped showing listings, and their site said, you know, because that was the only place you could go to see $3 movies.
Ugh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I waited to see it in theaters there, and it was relatively dead. But yeah, A Quiet Place would have probably been one that I could have experienced, but my fears of, you know, I don't know, that communal experience being broken up sort of pushed me.
Yeah.
You know, it left me waiting, I guess. And I mean, I own it now, and I would love to revisit that. That and Hereditary, actually, are two that I would love to.
How did you get into writing about horror?
Well, I got laid off from a job, maybe like 5 years ago. And I got unemployment. I pretty much was living in Boston. And I always wanted to write. I mean, I kind of held on to this one praise my teacher gave me when I was in creative writing class in high school. She loved the story I wrote. And I don't necessarily think it was great or anything, but just like her words of encouragement, I guess, sort of always stuck with me. And I don't know. I just came to the idea that, like, you know, whenever it comes to friends, coworkers, just strangers, like the one thing that I always, you know, I find myself talking about and sort of living is just like movies. And I was like, if I, you know, watch movies constantly, all I want to do is talk about movies. Like, I kind of want to ingratiate it into my life a bit more rather than being sort of something I do every other day. And I just started writing. I don't know. It's sort of an odd thing to talk about for me because I always have this I don't know, issue, I guess, with my writing, where I'm like constantly trying to find a voice. Where, because when I first started, I felt like I needed to emulate the greats or people I admired.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like I wanted to sound bigger than I, you know, actually was. And I don't know, to me, my favorite writing out there, or the best writing in my opinion, it's not verbose. It doesn't have, you know, grand language. It's just, to me, it's how it connects with them and their sort of sense of, I don't know, being relaxed and loose. I love when people like, you know, it just feels, I don't know. I mean, I never finished college. I don't really ever consider myself to be like, you know, an intellect or anything like that. So I love when language is sort of brought down on a level where all I could feel is your passion. And I feel like this connectivity, like this sort of like tissue. And I feel like I tried to emulate when I first started, like people like A.O. Scott and Ebert and like, it's just like, and Peter Travers. It's like the people because I wasn't really part of like Twitter or like, you know, like independent sites. Like I didn't read Vulture. I didn't read, like, this was before Birth, Movies, Death. I mean, I think they maybe just began Badass Digest and whatnot. And I didn't really read IndieWire. Like I just was so very detached. And so my idea was like these critics from newspapers. And yeah, to me, the best writers are, you know, people like you guys and people,
Thanks.
you know, who, you know, really put in this, I don't know. It's hard to describe it, but I even think just now I'm still sort of trying to find my voice, and I'm a lot closer than I was 5 years ago for sure. But it's something that, yeah, I struggle with a lot, and it pushes me away from being able to write a lot because I'm always like, oh, this isn't good enough, and I don't know. I'm trying to write.
So that
more
inner
loose.
saboteur, it's something that I struggle with an awful lot, where it's like you go through this time where you think, okay, everyone's being nice. Are they being nice on purpose, or are they just, you know, trying to be nice? You know, so like I get that, but Greg, your writing is great. I love it whenever you get a new article out. Like you just posted one just a bit ago about Eaten Alive, and that's another thing that I like about you is that you go and you talk about these older movies that I've never seen Eaten Alive. I own it because I don't know who put it out. Was it Severin or something?
Yeah, Severin.
Someone put it out. It's been sitting on my stack, and I just haven't had a chance to look at it. And I think what I love about your articles is that you go and you dig up these movies again that people might not be on the collective like consciousness of people. So I think that's great.
No, well, thanks, guys. I mean, you know, I try and like get into a habit. You know, like I am a creature of habit, and like I'm trying to write every day. I try to write every other day, and you know, it's one of those things you just have to sort of work on. And even if you hate your writing, you have to sort of push through that wall.
Yes, that is hard. Especially right now, I feel like I am hitting a little bit of a wall with inspiration and with like my desire to write, which sucks because I feel like writing for me is just a comfort, and it's really been hard, especially with like everything that's been going on in the world. I feel like no motivation right now, and it's been really hard to kind of push through that wall, but
yeah,
I have to. I mean, I don't have to, but I want to because it's what makes me feel the most normal.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah. I mean, becoming sedentary is sort of a fear of mine.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I mean, like a little over a month ago, I started teaching myself Italian because we were supposed to go to Italy at the end of April.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so we had our plane tickets, and I was like, you know something, like, in order for us to feel, like, to get around better, I'm just going to start doing, like, I signed up for Duolingo, and I bought a book, and I started doing it, and I kind of surprised myself, because, like, the one thing I've been doing every day, and, like, I've been, like, I don't know, looking forward to doing it, and I'm that way with writing now, although the fear of failure, I guess, always is, like, this dark cloud, and you know, but for, you know, just like with Italian, it just takes time. It takes effort, you know, and
yeah,
I know. I mean, like for Eaten Alive, it's, you know, that was my first time watching that movie. I mean, I bought the Severin release when it came out because I love Lenzi, like I love Nightmare City. It was like one of the craziest zombie films out there. And it was my first time watching it. And then I was like, oh crap, how do I write about a genre I don't know much about? Because like I've seen Cannibal Holocaust and I've seen Green Inferno, and like that's really about it. And so it's like I'm not like, you know, a professor of this genre, so it's like, how do I talk about it? But it's just like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that sometimes too, where it's like I'm like, I don't know a lot about this genre, but it's like, but like, where do you start? Like, why not write about what you love, and then from there you can expand? Because I feel like, you know, you got to start, like you said, you got to start somewhere. So why not write what you know, and then just like open yourself up to something else?
Yeah.
Well, I also think that I like that you what you just said, Greg, because it makes it easier for someone that's not versed in the genre to follow along with you. Like I don't know too much about like the kind of cannibal films. I've seen Cannibal Holocaust, and that's about it. I haven't even seen the Green Inferno. So like reading that article was like, you know, it's sort of like is kind of a gateway to help me get into the genre as well. And maybe it's like, I was like, maybe I should watch this one finally. Like I think that's great. And I think that's something that actually helps get people more interested in spreading their horizons a bit.
Yeah. I mean, if I write something and it, you know, you finish it, or even if you don't, like halfway through it, you're like, but it still makes you want to watch that movie, then I find that to be successful, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love when someone tells me they watched something because of something I wrote. I was like, that's what I want. I want you to find something that you like from something I wrote.
It always surprises me when someone says that. I'm like, really?
Yeah, someone from high school told me that the other day, and I was like, oh, I have not talked to you in 10 years. Hello, thank you. That's very strange, but also that's a very nice compliment that you're reading my work. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Movies, they're bringing people together.
Yeah, from our living room now.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about what we've been watching, since, you know, talking about movies from our living room? Terry, what have you been watching?
Well, you know, I've been playing too much Animal Crossing.
Yep. Valid.
Oh, both of you.
I haven't been, but I've been watching people play a lot of Animal Crossing.
Okay.
It's kind of enveloped my life, but I did watch a movie that, I guess I'm not, by the time this airs, I don't even think I'm supposed to have my review out yet, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, because I watched it today, and I really enjoyed it. The Vast of Night.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen it? You've seen it, right, Mary Beth?
I've seen it, yeah.
You haven't, Greg?
No, I've never even heard of it.
It's set in the 1950s in this small town in New Mexico, where you're following two high school students. Well, I think there's a radio DJ, and I think he's technically a high school student. I'm not really sure his age. And there's a girl that operates like a phone switchboard at night. And they have this kind of like little friendship going, and there's a lot of talking, and then she kind of intercepts this really weird audio frequency on her phone lines as she's like trying to connect people. And she's like, I don't know what this is. And she tries to figure out what it is, tries to get other, of the like radio or the phone booth operators to figure out what it is. No one really knows. So she patches it into the radio DJ, and they play it out there. And then it sort of goes from there as this like investigation of what this signal is and what it kind of means for their town. And it's a slow movie. It's very gentle. I guess.
Yeah.
It's not particularly scary. And there's not a lot that happens in it, but there's a lot of really good. I think the dialogue is really good. I think the two leads are fantastic, and it's shot to like beautiful hell. Like it's a first. I think it's a feature film for this guy, the debut film, and he's gonna have a career trajectory, because like this movie is very assured, and the cinematography is stunning. There's like this really awesome long take down a street that goes winding between barns and through a basketball game, and just continue. Like, it's this really long singular take that's just pretty stunning to watch, especially with this low budget film. What did you think of it, Mary Beth?
I loved it. I saw it when I was at TIFF last year, and I need to see it again because I need to refresh my memory, because it was a midnight showing. So like I was definitely a little sleepy.
Ooh, this would have. I'm sorry, this would have put me to sleep. I think. At a midnight showing.
I would but I want to rewatch it just because it's been a while. But I loved it. I thought it was really. It's like it feels reminiscent of the Twilight Zone.
Right.
It's like a Twilight Zone episode, but shot with much more style, which is weird to say about the Twilight Zone because obviously the Twilight Zone is very stylish, but it is like an old school episode of the Twilight Zone, and I really really enjoyed it. And the director, I heard him talk for a little bit after the movie, and he's really cool. He has a huge beard. Like, seems very self-assured for a first director. It's really always interesting to see like people who are first-time directors talking about their films. Yeah,
and as I was watching some of the notes that I took it reminded me of some of it kind of felt kind of Sorkin-esque with the like walk and talk. Like there's a lot of walking and talking type stuff going on, and some of it felt like classic Spielberg in a way. Very like there's definitely some nostalgia going on, but there's some interesting little subtleties to it that I think make it a little bit more interesting than just like a period piece set in the 50s trying to say that the 50s were great. Like there's definitely some undercurrents going on there. I wish they had kind of explored those a little bit more, but I think it's a great debut feature, and I would be surprised if this guy doesn't go on to do huge things, to be perfectly honest. It kind of feels like the start of like a Christopher Nolan or like a Rian Johnson, like where they make these like small films and then end up blowing up. So I'm hopeful. I think, I mean, you had me at gentle. It's very gentle. It's a very gentle film. And I don't think I loved it. It was funny because when you were talking about the theater going experience and not having your phone, I kind of wish that I didn't have anything to distract me because it's a very quiet film. It's good. It's good. Yeah. It's surprisingly assured for a debut. But does it lean into the 50s, or is this sort of like a background time period? No, it's definitely feels like the thing that it really gave me a thought of was how in the 50s everyone looked into the future as like this positive thing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like future nostalgia in this movie where it's like this girl, she's talking about how, there's these people that are making cars that can run by themselves. And she's talking about the future where like, we potentially will have like, she doesn't know what to call it, but it's basically GPS. She's talking about all these things that are coming in the future. And it was like a time where it was like people kind of looked forward to what was coming as opposed to now where it's like, oh God, what hell is going to be around the corner next. Right. Yeah. Like, can we like have flying cars before we die? Right. Nice. So like it definitely leans into that kind of like feeling of small town nostalgia at that time. But there's also some kind of spoilery, I don't want to really get into it, but some like undercurrents of that this might be wonderful for some people, but not necessarily for others. Mm-hmm. It's really good. I think for people that enjoy slow burn movies that aren't looking to be scared, I think you'll have a great time with this one. Yeah, what was it called again? The Vast of Night, and it's coming out in May. Vast of Night. Okay, I'm gonna add that to the watch list. What about you, Mary Beth? So I recently rewatched The Other Lamb, which is a amazing film. It is. Let me check if this is the correct information, but it's from a Polish female director. Her name is Małgorzata Zumowska. I'm so sorry. She's Polish. And so she's like a pretty prolific Polish director. And I believe this is her first English language film. And it's about a all-female cult led by a man, played by Michael Huseman, who played, he was in The Invitation. He was like the creepy cult guy in The Invitation. Okay. And it's this amazing, like, coming of age story, creepy cult movie, and it's just like very beautiful, and it's very intense and like very arresting is a way I would put it. Like it sucks you in, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's coming to April 3rd. April 3rd. So after this podcast publishes, but still it'll be out.
It's absolutely gorgeous. And I think like a lot of cult movies can be like very exploitative, very like, look at how creepy this cult is. But this one is much more focused on like the women and the impact that this guy has. And a lot about looking at like the introspection of realizing that cult leaders are just insecure people that crave love. And so it's very thoughtful and the cinematography is gorgeous. And, yeah. I'm enthralled with this movie ever since I saw it in September at TIFF, and it's coming out now, and I'm so excited. I'm excited for more people to be able to experience it because it's something special. So,
you know where it's coming out? Like Prime, VOD.
I think Terry.
I want to say it's coming out. I think it's coming out VOD to rent or to buy.
It's VOD
on the 3rd, I believe.
Yes, I just checked my email about it because.
Another movie that was good to watch in the theater where you don't have distractions. It's slow burn, but it's really, I agree. I think it's a beautifully made film.
And, I love me like an emotional slow burn where I get to like get in the heads of the characters and really like look at their psychology. So, yeah.
Cool.
What about you, Greg? What have you been watching?
Well, the most recent one I just watched was The Platform.
Oh, yeah.
So, Galder Gastulu, man, I'm butchering this, Urrutia? I probably got that wrong.
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
But yeah, it's a debut film, which is sort of crazy.
It was good, wasn't it? Did you like it?
I did like it. I don't think I loved it the way other people did. I sort of had the same feeling I had, less disgusted, but when I watched The Golden Glove a few months ago.
Oh, I have to see that still.
Yeah, I put it on, and I love, like, one of my favorite horror films is Angst, but that is like, man, that movie's like 82 minutes, maybe. It's like really kind of short, and it's not, sweet is, maybe the wrong term, but it's quick to the point, and The Golden Glove is like nearly 2 hours, and it's just, I think it's beautifully directed, very well shot, like the performances, like the entire aesthetic of 70s Germany was like beautiful, but it was just vile, just absolutely like. And I think I do love depravity, but like there's something very reprehensible about like just sort of existing with this character, and not even like him committing these heinous acts. It was just like him, eating like bar peanuts and beer at this like kind of sad pub with like these other people, and like it was just a very deeply felt sad and gross film. The Platform has similar vibes in some ways, but like I enjoyed it more. Like I enjoyed being with the main character. His name is Goreng. So pretty much for anybody who hasn't seen this, I'm not going to try to give too much away. But this like huge, massive structure is built. It's like a prison system, and it's, I guess, like the administration or the government calls it like vertical self-management center. And it's like sort of like an indescribable amount of layers. And there's just like a shaft down the middle where a platform falls, and it starts with like Michelin sort of 5-star food, and it goes down, and there's 2 prisoners per level, and you just start eating. And so it's like by the time it gets to like level 45, it's like, there's like a cake left and some lobster or like escargot, and like, but everything's just like, the hierarchy, like the class system, they just start like slobbering over all of it. So by the time it gets down to level like 137, there's like scraps, and you never know how many levels there are. And that's sort of like, the mystery of it, I guess, which is, what kept me sort of intrigued about the premise, like where it was going to go. And it's just beautifully shot. I think there's like a way of sort of like, I think a lot of people could lose themselves in films that are set in one location almost, or like one set piece. And it does a lot with it. It's partially it acts as food porn. Like there's one scene where, some of the inmates, it was like almost like a montage of them stepping all over these like, beautifully made cakes, and like, just like, I don't know, bolognese, and like, you're just like, no, like, what are you doing?
Right.
And it's, I enjoyed it. I gave it like 3 and a heart, I think, on Letterboxd. It's one that I don't know if I'll ever go back to, because I feel like it wasn't as satisfying. Like, it's very blunt. Like, its messages,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it like hits you over the head. And I don't have an issue with that, but I sort of, you know, I guess there's a reason when I watch movies like Escape from Alcatraz or like The Great Escape, it's like the adventure or the sense of fun, I guess, for me is in watching them like plan an escape. And there's part of that, you know, I'm not going to give too much away, but yeah, a lot of it's just like, you know, really vile sort of view of human beings. And, you know, it's out there, but I don't know. It wasn't as like, I liked it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still need to watch it. My partner doesn't really want to watch it right now. It's like the way things are, which is very understandable. So I need to find some time to just like watch it on my own, which is fine. He was just like, I just don't think I would like to be in that headspace. And I was like, that's valid.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, like watching it now, I was like, okay, you know, we just had like a $2 trillion stimulus package where they're handing out, you know, money here and there. And I was like, it just feels very much like The Platform where like, you know, the lower class or the lower income are going to get scraps, you know, and it's, you know, very prescient, but yeah, I maybe wait till it blows over. I don't know.
I like to punish myself with horror films, so I might watch it.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like The Parasite. I don't think it's as elegant or as subtle as The Parasite, but it's kind of tackling similar issues. But you're right on the money with it being blunt. It's about as blunt as a chainsaw.
Yeah, I mean, like
I guess a chainsaw isn't blunt, but like
it could be like, you know, if you don't sharpen it. The worst chainsaws are the blunt ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, well, you could watch this and The Golden Glove as a double feature and just, you know.
Ooh, feel really great about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have talked about what we've been watching now, but let's talk about what the movie you brought with you today. Greg, what are we discussing?
We are discussing Kubrick's The Shining.
The Shining, a masterpiece of modern horror, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, rated R, opens Friday, June 13. Check newspapers for local listings.
I'm so excited. So for like the one person who has no idea what The Shining is, Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, is an aspiring writer and recovering alcoholic who accepts a position as the off-season caretaker of the isolated historic Overlook Hotel in the Colorado Rockies. Wintering with Jack are his wife Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, and young son Danny, played by Danny Lloyd. Danny possesses The Shining, a psychic ability that enables him to see into the hotel's horrific past, including a previous winter caretaker who slaughtered his family before killing himself. After a winter storm leaves the Torrances snowbound, Jack's sanity deteriorates due to the influence of supernatural forces inhabiting the hotel, who want the family to stay there forever and ever. And ever. Okay, Greg, how old were you when you first saw this movie?
Man, this was one of the tapes my dad brought, and I was 7, and I had
wow,
I had my best friend at the time, Avery. Man, if you listen to this, Avery Sears, like I remember how this affected you too, so I felt it too.
Shout out to Avery.
Yeah. Wherever you are, Avery. So he brought it home, and we were having a sleepover. It was just Avery and I, and my dad had the brilliant idea of having this be our sort of midnight movie, if you would. And
okay,
had he seen it before?
Had my dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he knew it. He knew what he was showing you.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was punishing us. I don't know for what. I still haven't figured out. but hey, I remember we were downstairs. We put it on, and my dad had like just gotten sort of like I guess back in. Man, what? 94, 93? Like whatever would be a big screen TV. It was like really fat, but he got it and he was super proud of it. He set up this like sound system and we put it in. And I remember the first thing was being sort of entranced by the Wendy Carlos score. And I mean, that's, it just sort of sucks you in. It's like a horrific Death Star. And I was just sort of glued to it. And the funny thing when I think back to it is that I didn't feel scared watching it then. I felt like entranced, like the way the Steadicam moves around the halls and the way we're sort of like invited into parts of the hotel. But I think I was just like, it felt very epic, and it felt like the first true horror experience. And I guess I say horror experience not in the sense that like it was the first thing that scared me, but I was just like really immersed in it, and I loved it. And I remember specifically the only time we sort of broke away from it was when we do go into room 237, and it was like it wasn't my first time seeing a nude body on screen, but you know, for 2 7-year-old boys, you know, giggles will ensue.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, as you do.
Yeah, and I mean, even when they showed Scatman Crothers laying in bed, and he has the 2 framed posters of the nude women.
Oh yeah,
I love that scene.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, we couldn't stop giggling, and I mean, I think my dad was just like, you know, peeved because he was like, I think he really wanted us to be terrified. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't remember thinking much of the horror during it and even afterwards, but it's something that slowly seeped into like my pores. And I think so for Avery as well, because that night after watching it, he wakes up like screaming from what I remember, and of like a terrible nightmare. And I was just like, I was terrified because he terrified me, and we had to call his mother, and we ended up driving him home. And I was like, wow, Dad, you fucked up my sleepover. and then so I went back to sleep, and I had the most like vivid dream or nightmare of entering 237, and you know, the woman sort of just pulling essentially what she does on Jack. I mean, I never made out with her, which maybe I'd be more grown up now if I did, but I remember like it left such an imprint that from when I was 7 to probably in 8th grade, where I was 13, 14, I checked behind the shower every time I went into the bathroom. I was just like so terrified that someone or something was back there. And the way like my parents' bathroom is, it's like you go in and the toilet's all the way at the back. So if someone is in the shower, it's like, boom, you're cornered. You're not going anywhere. But it was like the thing that traumatized me the most. And I applaud it and commend it because it's what got me further into horror.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. That scene in 237, the reveal is such a well-crafted scene, to be perfectly honest. Mm-hmm. Like, I love how you see like the kind of curtain and you don't quite see something behind it, and then the hand kind of comes out and pulls it back. I love that moment, and I can see how that would leave like a scar kind of on your psyche for that night.
It was a deep wound, yeah.
After seeing it,
and that scene, especially like with the older woman, you see her like covered in mold.
Yeah,
I feel like that was my first experience with like body horror adjacent. Like, I know this isn't a body horror film, but like that moment is really awful. It's just in, like, looking at her body and at the way the body has decayed. And I think that's freaked me the fuck out, because I was like, oh my God, your body can get moldy, which sounds like very weird and like very specific. But like, it was really weird and traumatizing for me to like realize like the kinds of things that can happen to skin.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it freaked me the fuck out. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, she was moldy. She was like waterlogged.
Yeah.
It was just like such the complete opposite of like the visage we had before. It was like this beautiful woman. And I think the thing that really I love about this scene, and I kind of always appreciate every time I watch it. And I mean, I've seen The Shining, I don't know, like a few dozen times, and it's like it's my all-time favorite horror film, pretty much because of that instance when I was 7. And but it's like when you're going into 237, it's like you're through his POV and you're slowly kind of taking in the room, and the room itself is like so. It's beautiful, but it's shocking because it's very 70s, and when you're 7 years old in the early 90s, you're like, whoa, this is freaky.
Yep. There's a lot going on in the set design and the staging of everything from the carpets to the red walls to like everything about it just is very stylish. And I can imagine it being kind of overwhelming to a young kid's brain watching, because there's just so much color coming in different, sometimes contrasting and like color choices that clash with each other. Mm-hmm. So like there's just it's a lot.
Terry, when did you first see this movie?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't really I don't really have a memory.
Here we go.
I mean, I know that I'd seen it, but well, we kind of talked about when we were talking with April about Cujo, how I typically would read Stephen King books before I saw the movie, and that was the one case where I didn't. Well, I think that my love of Stephen King has colored my view of this movie from the very beginning. Every time I watch this movie, and I've seen it a lot, it's probably one of the more watched horror movies I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many times do you think you've seen it?
Huh?
Do you know how many times you may have seen it?
Probably, I would say probably about 10 or so. Like, I've seen it a lot throughout history, throughout history of
since the day.
No, and my opinion of it kind of changes with each viewing. Sometimes I really like it, sometimes I really hate it, and
ooh,
wow,
Hey.
yeah, the H word.
It's a strong word.
I need a shower.
Like I said, there are things about it that I absolutely love. Like I just talked about some of the scenes, and I think the score is phenomenal. I think the cinematography is stunning. I think the set design is great.
So what do you hate about it?
Yeah,
it leaves me cold.
Ha 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 ha.
Like Jack.
That's the point.
Yeah,
I don't care about
Terry
the
Torrance, Alone in the Maze, Frozen.
You don't care about the characters?
No, I don't care about the characters at all. I think they are so poorly written. I think the only good thing about them comes from the acting of Shelley Duvall, to be perfectly frank.
Oh my god,
I don't
Terry,
like Jack Nicholson in this role.
You have cut me to the quick.
I'm hurt. I'm offended, actually.
I know. I'm so sorry, but like, I think Jack Nicholson was miscast. I think Shelley Duvall gets a lot of hate for her role.
I agree.
And I think she's one of the best parts.
She is amazing in this movie, and she deserves nothing of what people have said about her. Everyone is terrible.
Yeah,
I think that she does the most with the role that is so poorly written for her.
I mean, Shelley Duvall, I've, over the years, I've come to absolutely love her. I mean, Popeye is something I watched. Popeye I watched maybe 3 months ago for the first time, and she's amazing in it, and I actually love that movie, and I'm really flabbergasted that it's got such a low opinion by people, and like, it's Altman. I mean, like, you really can't go wrong. It doesn't matter, like, I mean, he built an entire seaside, but I guess that's not really the point, but she owns Olive. And I think even in Nashville, she owns her character. Like, she was so maligned by everybody for being this like hysterical woman, but like, she's so much more than that. But like, even in The Shining, she owns that. Like, you feel every ounce of fear that she is sort of having, and like protective fear for Danny, especially. And, that's why I can't see this movie in a theater, because people just laugh at her, at Jack Nicholson, and it feels cruel, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I actually saw it in theaters. Was it last year when they were bringing around the 4K restoration of it? I think it was last year. I saw it in the theater, and it annoyed me when people were laughing at her, because I think that the movie.
I mean, it's a trouble, shoot with her. So
yeah, well, and I also think that I think Kubrick's an asshole.
Yeah,
I think
he sucks.
And I think he has. I know. I did some research, and I know for a fact that he really doesn't like King, and I mean King doesn't really like him, so fair game. Mm-hmm. But like, I found this interview with him because he was very reclusive with interviews. But there was one interview where someone asked him if he knew King's previous novels, and he had said no, I'd seen Carrie the film, but I hadn't read any of his novels. And he says that King's great abilities in plot construction. But then he says he doesn't seem to take great care in writing. I mean, the writing seems as if he writes it once, reads it, maybe writes it again, and sends it off to the publisher.
Damn.
So there's this about his work. And then in the same interview, they're talking about if he chose Shelley Duvall after seeing her in Three Women, and he says that he admires her work, but then he says, I think she brought an instantly believable characterization to her part. The novel pictures her as a more self-reliant and attractive woman, but these qualities make you wonder why she put up with Jack for so long. Shelley seemed to be exactly the kind of woman that would marry Jack and be stuck with him.
I mean, I'm not sure if that's necessary.
That seems unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's playing up her weakness, which I think her greatest strength is that, I mean, she's resilient as hell. She fucking fights him off,
Put the bat down, Wendy.
Stop it!
Wendy, give me the bat.
Wait! Get away!
Give me the bat.
Stop it!
Give me the bat. Stop swinging the bat.
Wait, stop!
Give me the bat, Wendy.
Wendy!
Give me the bat. Give me the bat.
Ah, God damn!
I mean, she fucking drags him into a walk-in fridge, and I mean, she is. I mean, it's not within the slasher realm, but to me, she is like one of the greatest final girls. If you're to like give her that title,
yeah, that's a good. Ooh, I like that.
That's great. I love that.
I mean,
well, and like, oh, sorry,
no, it's okay. I mean, it's I don't know. I feel like if you make fun of her, you're one step closer to being this like kind of misogynistic pig, because I feel like. My dad is less sensitive on that edge, and he really hates her. Like he thinks like she's shrill, fits the nagging peg, and and you watch it, and I mean, God, like you just feel so bad for her because it seems to me like to be a single mother almost. And
yeah,
there's just a lot.
And she plays like she is an abused woman, like just the way he talks to her, and like she's very meek because I think, and this is more in the book. I think she's a little bit more fleshed out in the book, but obviously sometimes movies have limitations. But she is like I think she's conflicted about what to do. I think she plays that well of like trying to be a good wife, but wanting to stay with her son and like trying to protect her son because I think this is in the movie. I don't know why I can't remember. Like he breaks Danny's arm by accident, and I think she's scared for her son, but I think back then also, like, I don't think women had much of a choice. I mean, I know it's like this, it's not like the 50s, but still, I think like there was a fear, and I think she captures that fear of like, is it better to stay? Is it better to go? What do I do? Like, maybe this will make our marriage better. And I just don't think it's fair to ever make fun of her because I think she captures that fear of being a trapped housewife very well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you could tell that she loves him, and it's not reciprocated at all. I mean, the scene that when she goes in, and he's like,
"We're gonna make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?"
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Okay.
Click clack typing away, and he just kind of like unleashes on her, God, like it still makes me uncomfortable and like heartbroken every time. And I don't know, I think she's the one person that seems in that relationship to be trying or like giving a fuck. And, you know, it's a lot more commendable than I think anyone gives her credit for. And I mean, I can't speak for, you know, anyone in abusive relationships, like how, you know, fearful it might be. But I feel like just through like her eyes are super expressive. And I mean, I think she's phenomenal. I mean,
yes, I agree.
See, I guess my problem is that I don't think Kubrick understood the book. I don't think he understood what was going on. Because I was reading again in some of the interviews where he's basically talking about, well, nothing's changed from the book. He's like, it still follows the same plot. And he talks about stripping away like some of the past stuff that with Jack and his father that I think is very significant to Jack's character. He talks about stripping away all of the characters pretty much to just what they are in the movie. And I feel like I feel like it falls into the same trap I have with a lot of Stephen King adaptations, where if you're just following the story by its plot, you're missing a whole lot of what makes King, to me, interesting. And I guess my other complaint we kind of talked about a little bit is that Jack arrives at the hotel like prepared for murder. Like he's an asshole from the very beginning. He's obviously has contempt for the people that he's going to be working for. You can kind of get that with his like interview. He doesn't like his wife. He doesn't like his son. In the drive up from the hotel to the hotel, it's like just barely conceived irritation and like,
I mean,
diffidence to him. Like, and that's not the Jack from the book. The Jack from the book is like trying so hard, like a lot of Stephen King characters that deal with alcoholism, trying so hard to be a good father. And then he eventually gives into the dark side. And here he's ready from day one to pretty much kill everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. I mean, for me, like I read the book, I think I was in like 5th or 6th grade. And I really do love it. I mean, it takes place way before, you know, the Overlook and even the initial interview. And like the way I sort of, I guess, interpret or like digest it is that, you know, once Wendy Carlos's score kicks in, it's sort of like this, you know, sonic cue of like, whatever force is at the Overlook sort of has Jack. It's leading him there. Mm-hmm. It's sort of, you know, like he's already falling into that trap as the, possessed or, you know, caretaker. And, you know, I'd like to think, I guess, that, you know, the behind the scenes, you know, of their marriage before is him trying because, you know, in the book, he's, I guess, remorseful over breaking Danny's arm. And, you know, to me, it's like, yeah, I get he's full on Jack, you know, or he's full on Jack Nicholson. And it's something that I love about. I've grown to love even more about it because it's just, to me, the Overlook has a hold of him right from the start. And I mean, and I think that's why I love the score so much is because like they go hand in hand to like, you know, like the possession of Jack is the score. And you know, they're like synonymous. And like, I think they're like, you know, haunting fingers over his entire presence.
Yeah. And I feel like, Tara, I know what you're talking about because I know like, that definitely reading the book after seeing the movie was like very helpful and kind of understanding and having more empathy for Jack, like for his character. But I liked the movie, like how they characterized him there, because it feels like it's more dreadful. I think this movie is like dripping with dread. Like everything is like you're waiting for something to happen. And I think especially with a score kicking in with the horns at the very beginning as they're going up that windy mountain road, it's like you already know who the monster, you kind of know who the monster is, and you're just waiting for him to appear. And I kind of like that characterization for the movie versus, and I liked the book a lot, but I think just like for the movie, I think it fit really well. But that's just
I just want to see like a character arc. Like he's one note to most of the movie. Like I wrote down in my notes, 46 minutes in of a 2.5 hour movie, he is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and he's on that level pretty much the rest of the movie. And I don't know. I love seeing, especially with villains that you spend a lot of time with. I love seeing some kind of trajectory, and I guess I never really see that in this movie. Every single time I watch it, it's like a one note performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's the character arc is not there, and I think that's sort of it,
for any of the characters, really.
Okay, I love Danny though. Danny Torrance, mystery solver, small boy in his cute Apollo sweater. I love him, and I like his character arc quite a bit. I know that he's kind of stiff in acting, but I really like watching Danny from the lens of a child explore this hotel and realize something is very wrong, but not having the words to describe it, and like figuring out how to use The Shining and how to really like protect himself and his mom. I really enjoyed seeing him.
But does he protect himself and his mom with The Shining?
I think so. I mean, he's the one who writes Red Rum. I mean, he's sort of, him and Tony, I guess, sort of work, hand in hand at sort of like bringing more of awareness. But I think that Wendy has more of a character arc than we give her credit for, because I mean, I think she like learns to sort of stop being submissive to him and sort of learns to sort of, fight back, because like this is a guy who's unrelenting and he's not going to change. And I mean, that's sort of how it is with, I guess, most abusers. It's just, it's, you got to fight for your life to get out. And, it's, but I think like, the reason I love Dr. Sleep, I think so much to sort of navigate into, its sequel is that I do love Danny's, older Danny's character arc, how like we were introduced to him as this like sort of down on his luck alcoholic, and quickly he sort of, within like the hour, he shifts to being sober for like 8 or 10 years. And I love that about it, because I mean, obviously it's not the same Danny. I mean, you could look at it as like not the same Danny or like blah, blah, blah. But to me, Mike Flanagan does such a great job at sort of tying the book and the movie together and keeping this essence of Danny alive. And I think that's why it hit me so well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, also, I think Dr. Sleep, it uses the woman from 237 incredibly well, because for me, watching that at such a young age and, always envisioning her behind a random shower curtain, it's like she's not in the movie anymore. She's in my bathroom. And in Dr. Sleep, like she's not at the Overlook anymore. She's in my bathroom. And it's like I sort of felt like a relatable fear with Danny, and it was like sort of like your trauma never stays put, like it's always with you. And I like that hit me really well with Dr. Sleep, and I think it works as a great sequel. I think in some ways it's a better movie than The Shining, because it actually gives its characters a career trajectory. Wow. Because like you just talked about Danny having an actual character arc, and I just don't, it's true. I just don't see it.
We haven't talked about best character, Scatman Crothers.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love him.
Well,
and
what did you give Dr. Sleep, Terry?
What
did you actually give? Because I know you don't have a single rating for Dr. Sleep.
No, I don't. It's one of those, when I saw it in the theater, I loved it up until the part where he tries to go into the movie, The Shining. And at that point I was like, ugh, I'm over this movie.
Okay.
And then I watched it. I watched the director's cut right after I watched The Shining to prep, and I think the director's cut is a really good film.
I think it's better.
Oh, it's much better. I mean, it doesn't, even for the 3 hour long runtime, I don't feel it. Yeah. Unlike The Shining.
So, what was that?
First off, it's 144 minutes. Don't even. Man, you got some people gunning for you.
I know I do. If it wasn't for this, it was for my thoughts on The Exorcist. So
I don't want to go there. Let's not.
Yeah, no, I think I think Doctor Sleep is a really good movie. And like I said, I do think, like, I purposefully wrote down good parts that I really liked about The Shining. But most of it has to do with the actual filmmaking involved. I think Kubrick is a great filmmaker in terms of like the way he stages shots, the way, the filming takes place. And there's two scenes that I really did enjoy this time. And the first was when Jack looks at the model of the hedge maze.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
oh yeah.
And in the model, and it's the first time I noticed it, that there is, even in the model, there's a little character that's wearing Wendy's coat, so that like it looks like she's actually in the model of the hedge maze. And it's a beautifully shot film. And then the other scene that I really liked was the drinking scene, where he's talking with the bartender Lloyd, and it's framed like a confessional, like it's two parts of his brain having a conversation, and Lloyd doesn't exist. He's just sort of like a cipher that Jack is able to throw his ideas off of. And you can kind of see his real true thoughts, like when he's like talking about how the little fucker threw my papers on the floor.
Mm-hmm. I never laid a hand on him, goddammit. I didn't. I wouldn't touch one hair on his goddamn little head. I love the little son of a bitch. I'd do anything for him. Any fucking thing for him. But that bitch, as long as I live, she'll never let me forget what happened.
And he's like, he calls Wendy a sperm bank. Like,
gross.
There's just like, you see him for the first time, and it's like this part that's not over the top. It's not like filled with like this kind of twirling mustache villain. It's like this very real portrayal of this horrible human being who has been basically keeping a mask on this entire time, and the Overlook has taken it off. And that was a scene that like this particular time really stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that scene I really love because it shows his resentment towards both Wendy and Danny, and how like sort of them being in his life, sort of, you know, he blames them for whatever failures he has.
For everything.
Yeah, and I love the
white man's burden.
I mean, I love this. I love the line that he gives Lloyd.
I like you, Lloyd. I always liked you. You were always the best of them. Best goddamn bartender from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine. Or Portland, Oregon, for that matter.
Where he's like the best bartender from here to Timbuktu. And so I always viewed Lloyd as like, you know, a bartender he's met before, you know, down his line drinking. And like, that's, you know, maybe it's his favorite bartender from some club he was at or some, you know, lounge, who knows? But I always viewed it as like it's an extension of his past now coming forward in his present to sort of destroy the future lives of the people he loves. And it's like, I love sort of like that connective tissue of, you know, and which I think is why, you know, Kubrick may not have, to people who like you are diehard, you know, Stephen King, The Shining fans. And I love the book, but I think Kubrick understood something about past, present, and future within the characters he's creating, and without trying to say or show like as much. Because I think if he did show flashbacks or all that, the movie, which is already nearly 2.5 hours, it would just kind of be bogged down. And I do love, like, you know, we fly in, you know, to these mountains, and we're sort of just like, it never stops. Like the score is sort of, it never stops. Like everything is very, it's got this momentum, and it's sort of why the 2.5 hours fly. Just like, in a way, Dr. Sleep also flies. I think Dr. Sleep is a lot more felt, time-wise, which in many ways I love, because you feel this like life that has been lived and is sort of trying to be saved. And plus, I mean, Rebecca Ferguson, my like biggest screen crush. But
can we talk about a scene that scarred me as a child and I never really understood what was happening? The scene where the bear is like giving a blowjob to the bartender, I think, or someone. Yeah,
it's like one of the caretakers.
When I first saw this movie, I was pretty young. I don't remember exactly what age I was, but I was pretty young, and I was like, what's happening? And my dad said, don't worry about it. And I was like, what? And it stuck in my head for so long because I was like, what the fuck were they doing? Like, what is this creepy ass bear doing? And after that was like the scene that stuck out in my head for so long about like, I like couldn't comprehend what was happening.
Well, yeah, it comes out of nowhere. She's just like running scared, and it's the camera's like focused on her, and then it just pivots. Into this room, and it's kind of unexplainable.
Yeah, I feel like it is unexplainable. Like, you can like, you know, you can say what you think is happening, but there really isn't an explanation. Like, you could assume it's probably sexual in nature, but like there is no confirmed what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
But like,
well, and the thing that I noticed this time watching it was that he has his like, there's like an opening in the back, like his butt is firmly out in display. I never realized that before.
No.
And like assless
and like,
chaps.
And it's like the creepiest bear mask. And it was just like something that stuck in my head for so long as a kid of just being like, what? What's happening? So yeah, that's fun. It was a fun scene. Like very brief, and I know not very central to the film, but like I feel like an iconic scene nonetheless.
Oh,
in The Shining, like that weird ass moment.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think, you know, that it's connected to sort of her, like, I don't know, their sexless marriage. You know, her yearning for some intimacy, and why it's a dog or a bear costume, I do not know.
Yeah, I had perceived it as like a weird projection from the hotel of like the weird bacchanalias that like occurred in the hotel, and like they're all kind of coming to the surface. But that's an interesting way to think about it too, though. Like with her it's like a projection of her subconscious rather than like the hotel like coming to life in a very interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, Jack sees a naked woman in 237, which sort of, I guess, represents like his, I don't know, marital cracks or maybe his lust, and then she sees a man with his ass exposed giving head to. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this movie that like I haven't really peeled back.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to peel back.
Yeah, Terry, there's a lot to peel back.
It has layers like a stinky onion.
Hey,
wow!
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Stinky.
I'm kidding.
Rude.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, so I mean, so when you first saw this, though, since you apparently seen it 10 times, which, not gonna lie, is a little weird, I guess, because you hate.
Oh my god, Greg's coming for your neck, Terry.
You know, exposed.
That's fine.
When you first saw this, was it like what, 2-star movie, 1-star?
I mean, I was a kid. I didn't quite understand it.
Okay, how old were you?
I just knew that there was no like topiary animals in it that were coming to attack people, and then I was pissed that the cook Halloran gets killed. So it probably was a low score. I don't really remember because I know I honestly have no recollection of when I saw this, except that I did see it when I was a kid and I saw it after I read the book. I don't know. I guess I've tried to like approach it throughout the last almost 40 years of my life. And like, I don't know. I just, I don't know. I don't know. I just hope that maybe I'm missing something because everyone loves it.
I mean, an amazing movie.
I love that everyone loves it. Yeah, I am missing. It's an amazing movie. You're absolutely right.
Have you seen the miniseries?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not seen the miniseries.
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean,
but I don't think anything that Stephen King adapts. I don't think he understands what's good about his stories either. Like the original Pet Sematary, terrible.
All right, that's quite a.
Wow. Do you have a shovel with you? I mean, if you want to go for the newer one, by all means.
No, that one's great.
Terry.
That's a 4-star movie right there.
Wow. Okay. Well, I won't even meet you halfway. I'm at 2. But
So I liked the new Pet Sematary, but I also really liked the old Pet Sematary. So I love both of them.
I like the Mary Lambert one. I think there's like, I think it looks really beautiful. I love the look of it, and I think the scene where Gage gets hit is like one of the most like heart-rendering scenes. But I don't know. That is like a comfortably 3-star movie, but I could not stand the newer one, and I was really looking forward to it. And I think the scene that broke me with that was when the daughter, now back from the dead, who I guess they call Elephant, is like her cute little nickname. I think she says something, along the lines of like in the flesh, and they just made her too evil, like way too like. She had like it almost felt like she had one-liners, and I couldn't get into it.
Valid,
but
valid. I get it.
I mean, I do.
I know not a lot of people liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a great time.
I mean, I appreciate that it's different.
I think it's hilarious.
Oh.
I think the book is hilarious.
Really?
I think the book is a dark comedy, and I really got that when I reread it before I saw the movie last year. I think it's a dark comedy.
I read it before I saw it last year, and I did not get that vibe. But okay,
I think it's a dark comedy about this disintegration of how much a white heterosexual couple tries to keep their family together, even knowing when they obviously can't. And I think it's absolutely hilarious. The scene in the book where he's digging up his kid was so funny. Listening to
your sick
Michael C. Hall. Michael C. Hall did the audiobook. Yeah,
listening to him talk about it, I was cackling in my car because it's a comedy. It's a farce. It's ridiculous the lengths that they will go to try to keep this nuclear family together.
Huh.
So are you past camp? It's a straight farce.
I think it's a satire.
I think
it's a dark comedy. Yeah, and that's kind of how I viewed the movie. I think the movie is really darkly funny.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think Dale Midcalf, who plays Lewis Creed, I think he has elements of, I mean, camp. It's maybe unintentional, but there are moments where, I think it's funny, but damn, dark comedy.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That book really fucked me up. So
it fucked me up as a kid when I read it.
Yeah,
it terrified
I read it
me
last year, and I was watching. I was listening to it and was like very upset by it. So interesting.
I mean, Pet Sematary has always been that sort of like the pinnacle of why I don't enjoy some Stephen King, and like I like Pet Sematary the book, but I think it's the way Stephen King writes little kids. Like to me, they come off sounding way too intelligent for their own good, and I don't know. It sort of detaches me from the reality, and I know that sounds maybe laughable because it's very much horror fantasy, but I don't know. It's especially like the little girl in Pet Sematary. It's I don't know. She says it just sounds way too smart.
You've never met some really smart kids, and they're scary as shit.
Probably.
I know some really smart kids that are scary. That are like smart. I feel like they're smarter than me, and I'm like, you're one of those horror movie kids, aren't you?
Like, Village of the Damned. Yeah.
Wow. So that was a conversation.
Yeah, that was a conversation. There's so much to talk about with The Shining.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an iconic movie, and I think
it is.
It definitely, just like Greg, it shaped me a lot as a horror fan and really informed a lot of things I like about horror, or like things I didn't know about horror, I think, as a kid. So I'm definitely pro The Shining.
Yeah, Terry, one day The Shining will shape you. You'll just get its hand all over you, and it'll just mold you.
Like the mold on the lady in 237. It'll just like cling to me and
yep.
Yeah. All right.
So do we want to move into our final thoughts and ratings about The Shining?
Yes.
Okay, Terry, what do you rate this out of forevers and evers and evers?
Forevers and evers. I rate it 1. No, I'm kidding.
What?
I'm kidding. I rated a 3.
Okay.
Maybe 3.5 if I'm feeling
generous.
If you're feeling spicy.
Attacked.
I feel very attacked.
No, I think it's one of those movies that's it's impossible to ignore. I think it has made its mark in horror history. I think that it's a very well shot film. I think the score is impeccable. I think it is. It's iconic. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah.
It just, the characters don't really do it for me. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, again, and that's probably why my score flips a lot, because it probably depends on how I'm viewing it at the time, whether I'm just like enraptured with the way it's filmed, because you were right, Greg. It's unrelenting when it starts, and the soundtrack is constantly there, and it just pulls you along. And I think that if I let it do that, I'm okay. But if I'm ever trying to like think about it, I immediately get pulled out because I don't care for any of the characters or what happens to them.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, that's make or break a film sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me. What about you, Mary Beth?
I'm gonna give it 5.
Save this conversation.
5 out of 5.
All right. That's a lot of forevers and evers.
It's a lot of forevers and evers because I love this movie forever and ever. Like I just said, it has shaped me as a horror fan, and I just think it's so iconic in its imagery and in its performances, and it has solidified itself into like the collective like pop culture consciousness. And
absolutely,
I think it handles. I mean, it can handle things better. Like, I know this, but I just really like the way it handles Wendy's character, and I want Shelley Duvall to get all of the credit forever and ever and stop getting shit on. And I
agree with you there, 100%.
Yeah. And like Stephen King, I think Stephen King has problems writing women. I have a lot of issues with the way he writes women, and I know Stanley Kubrick is not a great person, but I think this is an interesting, complex female character that should get more credit. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. So Greg, you have the final word.
Oh, wow.
Tell us your rating and tell us your final thoughts.
No pressure. 5. 5, obviously. I mean...
What? I thought you were a 1.
Please, Terry. In your dreams. I mean, for me, it's, it started at an early age. It's kind of funny because when people talk about, what movie would you love to sort of see again for the first time? I would love to see The Shining again for the first time at my age. I mean, obviously, I would have a caveat of if I didn't like how it resonated with me, could I go back to how I saw it when I was 7? Because I would love to see how I sort of internalize it now. But to me, it came out in 1980, and to me, it represents sort of like the last breath of like 60s, 70s, to me, like epic horrors. Because I view Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, I view those to me as epic. Like there's this weight and momentum to them that sort of, it's very cultural, and it's very of its time. And the thing I love about The Shining is sort of, it feels supernatural. It takes place in the Overlook, which is, it's almost like time stands still. Like the 4 months that they're there is, it could be a year felt. And I just love like the decor, just everything about it doesn't say late 70s in a way, like the 237 definitely does, but I don't know. To me, it's like the dying breath, but also to me, it ushers in what I love about the 80s, which is like, the copious amounts of slashers and just the fun it has with the genre. Because I do think that a lot of horror previously, not all, but a lot, is like very, very heavy, and it's very serious. It's very socio inclined, and like, it's the perfect movie for me. And it's like one movie that whenever I go back and watch it, it makes me forget that I have a phone, for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm always glued to it. And I mean, I think there are a handful of movies where I could watch them anytime, any place, and be glued to it and never tire of it. Like if we were talking action movies, I'd be talking Speed. But horror movies, it's like The Shining. It's, anytime, anywhere.
And that's the final word on The Shining.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. All right. So thank you so much, Greg, for joining us to talk about The Shining. Where can our listeners find you? And do you have anything coming up that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, people could find me at Daily Grindhouse, where I have a column right now where I celebrate horror films having their 40th anniversary.
Cool.
So I have something coming up in a few days for Don't Go in the Basement, which
cool.
I'm excited to watch because I actually have not seen it. I've owned the VHS for a while, and I know the score is supposed to be fantastic. I think Waxworks put it out a couple months ago. I do have a column for Talk Film Society, which I haven't, and I apologize to them, but I haven't touched it since August. And It's called Best of the Best, which I take a director and I highlight what I think is their best film.
Cool.
And I really do love that. But then with this whole quarantine going on, I am sort of trying to get back into writing for myself a little bit. So I took to fleshing out all the Hitchcock films I haven't seen. And so
cool.
I'm just going to sort of, do maybe 500-600 words on each film, but it's good to have sort of that project that is on my own blog, which is just a WordPress, and people could find it, Real Brew. Yeah.
Cool. And what are your social handles if people want to find you on Twitter?
Real Brew, REELBREW. Mostly Twitter. I kind of love the community that we all gather around, but yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Of course. So listeners, you've heard from us, but now we want to hear from you. What was your experience with The Shining? Was it like me and Greg, or was it like Terry? Sound off. Sound off on Twitter. You can follow us at Scarred Podcast, to let us know, or you can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow Terry and me on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
Like I said, make sure to follow us on Twitter and keep the conversation going.
And don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Steve Barnold for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our badass intro. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe out there, but more importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.